A week of very high temperatures ahead for much of the UK as the Met Office issues an extreme weather warning for the weekend.
We look at the impact on the London ambulance service as temperatures rise in London and are predicted to get even higher. Join us at 1:30.
It was a sweltering 32 degrees today at Heathrow. By Sunday, it could be as high as 40 degrees in the capital. The advice? Stay indoors.
As we've been hearing, over the next 7 days, the weather is going to be in the news as temperatures soar. There's a level 3 heat health alert in place for London and the South East, with the Met Office advising people to stay indoors at lunchtimes and to drink plenty of fluid. The ambulance service is also expected to be busy, as our correspondent Mark Ashdown has been finding out.
Now, the London ambulance service is busier than ever. They're currently receiving about 6,500 calls every single day. And to give you an idea of that volume, before the pandemic, that number was a one-off really on New Year's Eve. Now it's happening pretty much all the time. No wonder then they want more training and more staff. This then, one of 2 facilities being opened across London. The Mayor of London here today looking at some of the training they'll be receiving. They're trying to recruit 1,600 new trainees, new paramedics, new frontline staff, call handlers, that sort of thing, to try and relieve some of this pressure. And on a day like today, when it's topping 30 degrees, you can see just how important that is.
This is a state-of-the-art, fantastic facility, training the next generation of paramedics, 111 health advisors, call centre handlers, and it's really important for Londoners who may be thinking about switching jobs or thinking about what they do when they leave school or college, to think about a career in the London Ambulance Service.
Can you give us any idea why the calls have gone up so much? I mean, sort of 1,000 more on average from pre-pandemic. I mean, we're talking this would have been sort of New Year's Eve one-off level. Now this is every day. Why are so many more people calling?
So we think there must be lots of reasons, one of which is bound to be COVID. But in reality, what we're here for is to provide a service now, and we can see what the levels of demand are, and we are increasing our number of people that we employ, number of paramedics, to enable us to respond to that level of demand. So we can take people from school, from university, we can provide all the training you will need. So if you think you might be interested in a career in paramedicine, then come to our website and you can see a huge number of different opportunities, and we'd love to have you.
Now, as well as these state-of-the-art training facilities, the London Ambulance Service is also investing in new kit like these fully electric vehicles. Now, the idea is to get these recruits on the streets of London by March next year so they can help see more and more Londoners as quickly as possible.
Good evening. The capital's gardens and water parks have been packed full of Londoners enjoying themselves in the hot weather today. Top temperatures hit almost 32 degrees at Heathrow. And with it all came extreme heat warnings too. The first ever for London is in place for the coming weekend, when we could see a record high of 40 degrees. The advice to everyone is stay indoors where possible. Parents too are being encouraged to limit their children's exposure to the sun, as Martin Stew reports.
Sun shining in summer isn't usually a headline-grabbing phenomenon, but forecasters warn this week could be record-breaking. A plume of Saharan air is heading our way, bringing with it the chance of seeing the hottest ever UK day on Sunday and triggering London's first ever amber heat warning.
Statistically speaking, heat waves are often more deadly than cold snaps, and weirdly it's not the temperature during the day, but overnight that's the real problem, because if your body can't cool down, you often can't recover.
No wonder the London Ambulance Service are gearing up for a busy week.
We've rostered more staff to answer the phone, more staff on the front line, and hopefully we'll be here to keep Londoners safe. But it would be really helpful if Londoners could keep themselves safe.
At Kew Gardens, where for once it was cooler inside the tropical greenhouses than outside today, I asked tourists who are more used to the heat for their advice.
You mentioned you're from Thailand. What are your top tips for staying cool?
Umbrella. Yes.
That's the trick, is it?
Yes.
And drink lots of water.
Relax, be in a shady place to avoid having sunburn in your body.
Just get out of the city for a bit.
And not be surrounded by asphalt and concrete that just sucks up the heat even worse.
Southend-on-Sea certainly provided that today. More centrally, the Thames looked tempting, but the RNLI says swimming in the river is not safe.
We're not the fun police, and I can see the attraction of cool water versus hot weather, but Tidal Thames is a very dangerous stretch of river. People lose their lives on a weekly basis entering it, so go to a Lido instead.
The same goes for pets. Dog and owner rescues like this one usually peak in this sort of weather.
All right.
Staying cool is more rocket lollies than rocket science, but with the Met Office warning of potential serious illness or danger to life in Sunday's sunshine, it's important we all look out for those who are vulnerable and take time to chill. Martin Stew, ITV News.
Some fun to be had then, despite the warnings. Sally's live for us now at the Splash Park in Barking, we just saw in Martin's report. Sally, whenever we talk of extreme weather, it raises the question of how much climate change is a factor.
I think that's right, Ria. Look, here I am at Barking. They're having so much fun here, but of course there's such a serious side to all this. Now, it's really unlikely that we'll get to 40 degrees on Sunday, but there is a chance, and I think it's the fact that there's a chance and the fact that we're even talking about it that's so alarming. Climate scientists have been telling us things are getting hotter, we're going to see more extremes, and that is a perfect example of an extreme, going to possibly 40 degrees this weekend. Now, if you take a look at this chart, you can see what's going on, the air mass, these pinks and purples that are coming up from the south, squeezed up towards us. There'll be a little bit of a lull midweek before we get those hot temperatures, but by probably Sunday, that's when we'll start to see the most extreme heat. And it's not just the heat itself, it's the accumulation of it over a few days. It never gets a chance to cool down. And now, as well as the extremes, there's also the trends. So if you take a little look at this graphic here, from the 60s to the 90s, 5 days a year we're above 30 degrees. Here we are in the last 30 years and it's been 9 days. So you can see it's going in one direction, and the Met Office are telling us we're going to see more of this and it's going to get worse. Here's their warning.
Well, it's entirely possible that we see those extreme temperatures into the high 30s, possibly even the 40s, on a fairly regular basis, I think, over the coming decades. So that's certainly on the cards, and again reflects our warming climate.
I think what's going to be interesting actually over the coming weeks is what we see in the battle to become the next Conservative leader, the next Prime Minister. Are they going to be talking about climate change? What are their pledges going to be? Is it going to be on the agenda? It all went a little bit quiet after COP26, didn't it? That's it from here. For now, I'll have more on the hot weather, the warm days, the warm nights at the end of the programme. Ria.
Good evening. The Met Office has tonight issued a rare extreme heat warning with temperatures set to soar to levels which could endanger life. The warning affects large areas of England and parts of Wales from Sunday and into early next week. Forecasters expect temperatures to reach the mid to high 30s during the day and also remain high during the night. But they can't rule out the possibility of it going above 40 degrees for the first time on record. That's a sweltering 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, tonight we're in Cambridge, one of the hottest parts of the country, in Salisbury, where emergency services are tackling a wildfire. And we'll also get analysis from Alex on why we're seeing such high temperatures. But first, here's Neil Connery at the start of a week of heat.
On Brighton Beach, the scorching summer sun beats down as heat health warnings kicked in across England. The hot weather is set to last into the weekend, with a rare extreme heat warning covering much of England and Wales, now in place from next Sunday. At this care home in Folkestone, they're working hard to keep residents comfortable as temperatures rise.
We tend to keep people under canopies or indoors, particularly during the highest points in the day when it gets really hot around midday. They should look out for signs of dehydration, of course. You know, you can see the dry lips, etc. But also at the same time, they should make sure that the people aren't exposed to the sun directly or for too long.
Warnings are also being issued to people to avoid swimming in dangerous places. The 16-year-old boy died in this abandoned quarry in Apley Bridge in Lancashire on Saturday night. Across the country, people are being urged to think twice as the heatwave takes hold.
We're not the fun police, and I can see the attraction of cool water versus hot weather, but the Tidal Thames is a very dangerous stretch of river. People lose their lives on a weekly basis.
As temperatures climbed in Cambridge today, they were trying to get shade however they could. Nearly 3 years ago, the city hit the UK's highest ever recorded temperature with 38.7 degrees Celsius. Forecasters fear that could soon be beaten.
There is a chance that the temperature will go higher than that. So in which case we would call it unprecedented. We would say that we've never seen those kinds of temperatures before. But it's a chance rather than a guarantee at this stage. It's still 6 days away.
While many are making the best of it all, for others, the blistering heat is a threat to life.
OK, so let's take a look at where we'll face the highest temperatures over the next few days. That amber weather warning for extreme heat covers much of England and Wales. Temperatures are expected to keep climbing this week, and the latest warning will come into force on Sunday, and it could last until early next week. Well, Neil is in Cambridge for us. Neil, we've had some serious warnings from the Met Office about this, haven't we?
It is serious, and if you think things are bad today or tomorrow, brace yourself for what could be coming next Sunday or Monday. This rare weather warning from the Met Office talking about extreme heat. Now, we're not sure whether or not it will beat the record we saw here in Cambridge, of course, 3 years ago. As we heard, there's a small chance of that happening. We'll know more in the coming days as we get more data and the forecasts move into that time period. But I think what is clear is the direction of travel here, that on those days, Sunday and Monday next week, we could see temperatures possibly in the mid or high 30s. Now, that is going to cause a lot of pain and a lot of difficulty for a lot of people. Heat kills, and that is why these warnings matter, and that is why the Met Office want people to heed what they are saying.
Okay, Neil, thanks very much for that. Well, with the heat wave comes the increased chance of wildfires as well, and one has already broken out on Salisbury Plain. Our correspondent Rupert Evelyn is there for us tonight. Rupert, how bad is it?
Well, the wildfire behind me stretches for some miles here over Salisbury Plain. So I think, to answer your question directly, it's pretty bad. You know, the plain is on fire. The wind is pretty brisk. All the grasses and the crops around here are all bone dry. It's the perfect recipe, isn't it, for a fire. Now, the MOD, the suspicion is that this wildfire may have been caused by live firing exercises from the Ministry of Defence here on Salisbury Plain. The MOD haven't confirmed that. What they have said, though, is that they will be ceasing all live firing for the moment. The military exercises, which have been long planned here on the plain, are continuing. You may be able to tell from the pictures that there's very little activity around the fire. For the moment, they're letting it burn. The reason is this is a military training area. There may be some unexploded ordnance. So unless they have to wade in, they're keeping back for now.
Rupert, thanks very much. OK, let's get more from Alex, who's on the London Eye for us tonight. Alex, it does feel as though these high temperatures and warnings are becoming more frequent, are they?
Well, Charlene, it certainly feels like we are seeing extreme weather more frequently, and it does feel like it's getting hotter. We've seen a high of 32 degrees Celsius today, but of course we've been talking about the chances later on in the week into the weekend where it could be 35 degrees or hotter. And let's actually take a quick look at when we've seen those temperatures. You can see back to the summer of 1976, which many of you will remember. That was a record-breaking summer. We saw 35 degrees or hotter twice in the 1990s, and then from 2003 we've seen it happen 6 times, and you can see that there is a bit of a trend developing here, and that's why a couple of years ago the Met Office had to start issuing those extreme heat warnings. As we know, one does kick into place on Sunday. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets extended into Monday, and this is for all of us to really take heed, even for those of us that are relatively fit and healthy. We're all susceptible to things like heat stroke, open water swimming can become dangerous, and also damage to infrastructure like railway lines. Of course, I have the full forecast coming up for you a bit later in the programme.
OK, brilliant. Thanks very much for that, Alex. We'll see you in just a second. But it's not just the UK that's sweltering in the heat. Countries across Europe have been experiencing extreme temperatures this summer. Wildfires are raging in Portugal as the country endures a heat wave with temperatures expected to reach up to 43 degrees Celsius. A state of alert has been issued in the country for the rest of the week. And in Spain, parts of the peninsula exceeded 40 degrees today as the second heat wave of the season, with Andalusia and Extremadura in the two regions predicted to be worst affected.
Now, the week ahead will bring very high temperatures in parts of the UK, and the Met Office has issued an extreme weather warning for next weekend. Today, temperatures reached around 32 degrees in some parts, with southern England the worst affected region. Well, today, health heat alerts were issued across the south, the Midlands and eastern parts of England. No alerts were issued in Scotland, Wales or in Northern Ireland. And people have been advised to stay indoors where possible and to drink plenty of water. As our climate editor Justin Rowlatt reports, this type of extreme weather is likely to become more familiar in future.
In case you haven't noticed, it is hot. Very hot. Wales recorded its hottest day of the year, 28.6 Celsius in Flintshire.
Go, go, go.
And temperatures soared in England too. Lovely if you can get to the beach or to a pool, but the truth is most of us can't.
Do you mind if I put a hat on you, my lovely? The sun's very hot.
At Summer Court Care Home in Teignmouth, they've been making sure their residents stay nice and cool.
Love it. We're so lucky, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah.
We haven't seen this for years.
I don't like it that hot. But on the other hand, I don't like it too cold either.
If you also found today uncomfortable, be warned, it is set to get a whole lot hotter this week. And it's because of the southerly wind. It absorbs heat over Africa and then blasts up through Spain and France and into the UK. There is a very small chance we could see temperatures of over 40 degrees Celsius on the weekend.
The places where these warm air masses are coming from before they get to us have warmed due to climate change and due to man-made human emissions of greenhouse gases. And so the consequence of this is that when the weather conditions are such that we're experiencing a summertime heat wave, it's that much more likely that the temperatures we experience, the duration and the intensity of the heat wave is increased.
Don't think you can skip off on holiday to escape the heat wave. It was over 40 Celsius in parts of Spain today, and the forecast is France, Germany and Italy will also record temperatures of 40 degrees plus over the weekend. So stay hydrated and stay in the shade. Well, I'm in Portsmouth, Hugh, where this afternoon the NHS Trust that covers the area declared a critical emergency. They said that was partly down to staffing issues around COVID, but also, it says, due to the strain, and I quote here, of the prolonged high temperatures this week. It means they are turning away people from the accident and emergency unless they have life-threatening conditions. And the South Central Ambulance Service, which provides ambulance services for the region, has also declared a critical incident. More evidence, Hugh, of the kind of impacts that the sort of extreme temperatures we're experiencing at the moment can have.
Well, back to the hot weather now, and some of the people in South East London who've found a way of keeping cool. Tolu Adeoye can tell us more.
Well, this is definitely one of the nicer places to be on a day like today, and no surprises, Charlton Lido is almost fully booked throughout this week.
This is our first time.
How are you enjoying it?
Oh, we're loving it, absolutely loving it.
Really enjoying the warmth. The last time we came it was super cold and windy.
I booked to come here all this week, so hopefully I'll keep really cool.
It's a lot busier than usual. We have got obviously other Lidos across London, but I mean for this week particularly and the weekend we're going to be really, really busy.
With temperatures tipping over 30 degrees in London today, it's been hotter than Ibiza, and we could hit the mid-30s by Sunday. What will you be doing to make sure keeping on top of with the heat?
Yeah, just putting lots of cream on, drinking plenty.
I think the main thing is to keep out the sun as much as you can and drink as much as you can. Wear a hat, which I should have on, I haven't.
We just have to be careful not to go out in the midday sun, really.
And if you are lucky enough to live close to one of London's Lidos, it's most definitely one of the funner ways to keep cool. Tolu Adeoye, BBC London.